Good evening everyone and welcome to Gundam News. And compared to last week, this week has been a bit of a slow news week. But on the 10th, there was one hell of an announcement. Bandai is actually trying to make real-life Gunpla battles. And from March the 6th until the 13th, they're going to be holding the first test event at the Gundam factory Yokohama. And this is definitely one of those things where at first it just sounds like too crazy to be true. I was reading the title and I was like, nah, I gotta be reading it wrong. This can't be actually happening. But then when you think about it, like all of the technology they would need for this does already kinda exist. We've got 3D scanners and we've got like recognition software. So all that's left to do is to figure out how to implement that into a game engine. Of course, it is still in the beginning stages, but there is already a small selection of Gunpla available to be scanned at the event. From the high-grade line, we've got the old RX-78-2, the Revive RX-78-2, the RX-78-2, the Origin version, the RX-78-2 Beyond Global version, and the Gundam Helios. And then there is the no-grade RX-78F00 Gundam, the entry-grade RX-78-2 Gundam, and the RX-78-2 Assembly Experience version. And you can either bring your own or use one of their rental Gunpla. And I definitely wonder how far they're gonna be taking this. Because since they do have like all of the 3D data for the official Gunpla, we should be seeing more Gunpla added to the roster relatively soon if all goes well. But what I'm the most curious about is how they're going to be handling custom Gunpla. For the purpose of this test, they did stipulate that you can't have modified the shape of the Gunpla for it to be scanned in. But custom colors are okay. Now, they don't say if the machine is actually going to recognize the color scheme or if it's just going to see like, oh, you're trying to scan in a Revive RX-78-2, so even though you painted it in the G3 colors, you're just getting the normal standard RX-78-2 colors. But they did say something about recognizing the official decals included, so who knows what they can do. That definitely sounds like custom color schemes should be added relatively soon, but custom parts or like just straight up modifications might be a bit more difficult. But again, I do feel like the technology for that is already here. It would definitely be cool if they could somehow apply AI technology to recognize those small changes, like, for example, adding thrusters, adding armor, or having the system recognize your custom beam saber as being the Strike Gundam's beam saber, but the AI then recognizes that it has a longer barrel and an upgraded sensor, like you swapped it out with a bigger one, and therefore it can recognize that it's now no longer just a normal beam rifle, but it's a sniper beam rifle. Stuff like that would be really cool to see implemented. And that's all we know so far. I will have a link down below to the official website and also to the promotional video, which is of course region locked to Japan. So you know the drill by now. NordVPN, link down below, code KKRT, get region locked content, extra protection, and you're supporting the channel. But do you know what you won't need a VPN for? Miss Moriguchi Hiroko's cover of Beginning, an insert song of the third Gundam movie, which went live on YouTube on the 15th. I'll have it linked down below, and just as all of her other covers, it sounds absolutely amazing. And also, the music video is appropriately esoteric to fit very well with the visuals of the scene of the movie itself. But then quickly back to Yokohama now, because they've also got a bunch of other things that will be implemented on February the 19th. But unfortunately, they'll only last until March 13th. There's going to be a giant balloon of the final shooting, a giant balloon of the Freedom Gundam, a display of recycled Gunpla runners, which includes the famous life-sized Gundam head, a life-sized wide-base captain seat that you can unfortunately not sit in. That would have been really cool to take pictures with, though. An exhibition of upcoming products and much more. So it does sound like next week I'll have a lot of new things to talk about. Then, the second piece of big news that we got this week is that BamCo has been nominated as an exhibitor for the 2025 World Expo, which will be held in Osaka. And of course, that means that Gundam is going to be there as well. And while it's definitely cool to hear the confirmation, it's really not all that surprising either. I mean, Gunpla was part of the World Exhibition, or well, still is part of the World Exhibition in Dubai, so not having it at the World Exposition that's held in Japan would be weird, to say the least. And it appears that the main thing they'll be trying to promote is tackling global and social issues through Gundam, a theme that we've seen them promoting quite a bit like in the last year or so, with the main one being a focus on green energy and recycling. And then the third piece of somewhat big news is that on February the 15th, as the Gundam World Heroes started airing in Japan. So now, every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m., you'll be able to learn more about the mysterious Goku Impulse Gundam as he travels through the lands and meets the heroes inhabiting it. And from the Gundam base, we're getting a clear-colored high-grade Helios Gundam for 2,530 yen, a little under 25 US, and if you're thinking about using this thing with the real-life Gunpla battle thing, forget about it. The scanner does not work with clear or plated kits. And we're also getting the very interesting looking Master Grade Astray Red Frame Flight Unit with a combination of plated and clear parts for 14,850 yen, around 120 US. The red, gold, and blue is plated, the dark gray has a gunmetal finish, and the white then is clear. And all of this comes together to form quite the eye-catching model. Not necessarily something I'd want, but I'm fairly certain someone out there really wants to get their hands on it. Both kits will be releasing on February the 25th, with lottery pre-orders starting on the 18th. It's a way to stop scalpers, but I'm also getting the feeling that this probably is going to make it way harder for anyone outside of Japan to get their hands on this thing. And then on the 16th, reservations for the Blu-ray and DVD of the second Gundam 00 theater production began over at P Bandai. They'll cost you 9,680 yen, 90 US, and 8,580 yen, 80 US respectively. Then there's also some other goods you can buy from the theater production, like a brochure, visual book, pictures, can badges, and acrylic stands. I will have the website for these linked down below. As for the gaming news then, on the 10th, Battle Operation 2 launched their celebrationary campaign for having been downloaded over 4 million times. So, logging in will get you a Zeta Gundam, Qbelay, Double Zeta Gundam, and a bunch of DP and tickets. They've also released a short promotional video for the occasion, which I will have linked down below. And there's also a bunch of other events being held until the 24th, like a step-up lottery event, 20 free lottery tickets which will guarantee 2 Rarity 3 or higher mobile suits, something about a 100% gold and silver container discovery rate, base decorations, avatar items, and also some new player bonuses. On the 17th then, today at the moment of recording, Bonds of the Battlefield 2 received 4 new mobile suits. The Gundam Ground Type and Gelgook, which are classified as short-range units, and the Jim Striker and Zagok, which are classified as melee units. And if you're not familiar with the game, the melee units are of course even shorter range than the short-range units. And also part of this update are some minor changes, balance updates, and bug fixes. And then on the same date, the Afreech Knight was added to Gundam Extreme Versus 2 Cross Boost. I will have the promotional video linked down below so you can immediately see that thing in action. And then in other news, last week I reported on how Sunrise was going to have its name changed to Bandai Namco Filmworks, or BamCoFi for short. Now, while this is true, the iconic Sunrise name isn't disappearing either. Instead, as part of some major restructuring, Sunrise will now become a brand under the BamCoFi banner, which itself is part of the BamCo brand. But then on to the things we could buy this week. Well, there was the Hobby Japan Mechanics Archive Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam Edition featuring a bunch of really cool Zeta Gundam kits like the Gundam Mark II, and the weekly Mobile Suit Bible featuring the Cherubim Gundam. And unfortunately, things don't get better with this week's apparel. There isn't any. So finally, let's have a look at this week's poll over at Gundam.info. With the third Gundam movie being released on Blu-ray and DVD, they want to know which is our favorite machine that is introduced in the movie. And the results aren't really that surprising, considering the fact that there weren't really that many new machines in the third movie to begin with. In first place, with 188 votes, we have the Gelgook, a machine that definitely has my vote in this poll as well, and is also one of my more favorite Zeon machines, period. And it is followed relatively closely by the Zeong with 143 votes. Not bad for a design that is quite out there. Although, I must wonder, how much the pilot of the thing affected its votes. And, perhaps another contributing factor is just how awesome the Real Great managed to make this thing look. And then we jump down significantly for the heated battle for third place. The Big Zam has 55 votes and the Elmeth has 53 votes. Both instrumental designs with a very big role to play in the movie, but I guess the other two were just a little bit more important. Something that I guess is especially true for the Zeong, because I can say that this design would warrant 3 times the vote of something like the Big Zam or the Elmeth. Also, something that just crossed my mind is, wouldn't technically, when looking only at the movies, the Zaku 1 also fit the bill for this poll? Because if memory serves me right, the only time that the Zaku 1 appeared before the events of the third movie was when Char was being resupplied all the way in the beginning of the series. And that scene was cut out for the first movie, so I guess you could make an argument that the Zaku 1 was then also introduced in the third movie, in which case the Zaku 1 would get my vote. But anyways, if you want to vote in the poll to change up some things, I will have it linked down below. And that has been all for this week's Gundam news. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great evening, and I'll see you all next week with more Gundam news.